Thank you everyone for joining the Industrial Defender webinar, which focuses on how Industrial Defender ASM datasets and integrations can be leveraged to provide deep OT awareness and insight to a centralized SOC, with the goal of achieving the CISO's seemingly unreachable panacea of IT-OT convergence. I'm George Calavantis, and I head up the operations group at Industrial Defender. With me is Peter Lund, our Director of Product Management, and Jeremy Morgan, our Principal Solutions Engineer. The SOC analyst in today's ICS organizations is at the forefront of the security equation, but has not had a say in the equation variables or algorithms. And as organizations are further pressured to centralize operations, the typical challenges of a SOC are further exacerbated by alert overload, lack of OT visibility, lack of OT data enrichment, generic SOC playbooks that are not curated for OT. Although these challenges require OT focus, they do not require an ICS engineer, especially when the critical event and configuration data is available via ASM. With that said, I will hand it over to Jeremy and Peter, who will show us how what we have learned in our previous webinars, which have focused on data collection, third-party integrations, and vulnerability monitoring, can assist your organization with the creation of a robust OT SOC operation. Peter, take it away.
Thank you, George. So what you see here is a pretty typical ICS-oriented dashboard that is focusing on critical events for an OT system at a particular site. The Industrial Defender ASM is feeding Splunk, like we had shown in our last video, and it's really just showing OT events of interest, specifically focused on removable media, authentication, and virus or malware alerts. Jeremy, our plant manager, he's been making some updates to the system. I was aware of those last week. I knew we were doing some removable media, and he was going to be logging in kind of a bit more than usual. But Jeremy actually just made a mistake, and it's about to light up the screen, as we'll show in a minute here. So Jeremy actually forgot to scan the last SCADA update package that he deployed, and it's actually caused a virus detection event to be detected here in our screen. Because we have some of the enriched data actually coming up to ASM in addition to these security events, I can now see actually what has occurred with some deeper insights as we look at the next dashboard. So now we can see all the events for that specific host that had that removable media event. So we've got some, pretty normal things happening. Maybe it was a little bit low on resources, but we do see that one removable media event and that one antivirus, or actually three antivirus events. So we've actually had quite a bit happening now. So now we can kind of dig in and see really what's changing to the configuration data and some of the administrative properties. And we define that as, like things like software, firmware, administrative properties are things like, the asset owner, where it's physically located, the phone number to call. These are all things that are managed within the ASM and then shareable to northbound platforms like Splunk. And this makes the data more accurate and relevant than a generic playbook that the SOC. So we're going to dig in, let the asset owner know there's been some trouble, and we can start to actually parse through some of the forensic data here.
Hey, Peter, before you call our unsuspecting asset owner, I wanted to review what I believe I just saw. Is it safe to say that the OT SOC analyst was able to pivot off of one alert and identify events of interest, changes to configuration data and vulnerabilities because of the ID, ASM API, and log feeds?
That's exactly right, George. So I can see that some removable media was plugged in, mounted to the E drive. We've got a number of vulnerabilities on this endpoint. We can see, where it's physically located, who to call, the asset's address, the model number. Quite a bit of enriched data, which is typically hard for a SOC analyst to track down. Now that we know that this has happened, I'm actually going to give a call out to Jeremy out in the field and understand what's going on and see if we can figure out and get ourselves out of trouble here. Hey, Jeremy, it's Pete from the SOC. I just got an alert that someone plugged in removable media. I knew you were doing maintenance, but now we're seeing some antivirus alerts and some other unusual events. What's going on out there?
Well, shoot, what do you want me to do? Just shut everything down?
Actually, no. We want to make sure we understand if this is a critical system and we want to preserve it for analysis. We also don't want to break down the process in case it's just a false alarm. Could you just unplug the network for now? Prevent it from, spreading to more endpoints? Is this going to be safe for your operations out there?
Sure, Pete. We're in outage anyway, as you know, so I'll just go ahead and do that right now.
Okay, great. So yeah, you did brief me on the shutdown, but are you sure it's safe to unplug it?
Sure. It's just the historian for the engineers at headquarters to monitor stuff. I'm unplugging it now.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and dispatch the incident response team to site. I saw on the properties of the asset that it's located in Foxborough and that it's at 225 Foxborough Boulevard. Is that data still correct? Is that where you are?
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll let the security guard know, and I'll call management and let them know we won't be back online for a bit. Anything else I can do?
Yeah, maybe you could help me dig into some of the data. So I actually saw that there were some new suspicious looking administrator accounts. So it's like administrator, with a 1 instead of an I. That's, something that I've seen as a typical bad pattern with malware. It looks like we installed 7-zip and a number of other executables were dropped onto the endpoint. I'm kind of worried about that stuff, so I want to make sure we understand what it is and if it needs to be removed.
Yeah, I definitely didn't do that, so thanks for pointing that out. I really appreciate it. It just saved me a bunch of hours collecting all this data by hand, and now we'll have a much better way to address what was impacted. Could have been really bad if we hadn't called me earlier and we had gone online in the next few minutes.
Great, that makes me feel better because I was pretty nervous when I saw antivirus. I know that environment is very, very quiet. I knew about the removable media stuff you were doing last week. I didn't know it was going to carry into this week, so I'm glad I called you.
Pete and Jeremy, that was another informative presentation, and I love the back and forth. It seems that due to the addition of the Industrial Defender feeds and config data, we were able to provide both the SOC analyst and the asset owner with all of the information necessary to make high-quality operational decisions. I would like to once again thank you for taking us through the presentation and for our audience for listening in. In closing, I would like to say that Industrial Defender is well positioned to assist CISOs with their IT/OT convergence and centralized SOC operational strategies. Thank you, everyone, and please stay safe.